Everyone in the room laughed when he said it. A broke nobody, shaking hands, cheap guitar, and one reckless joke. I can't sing Elvis better than Elvis. They thought it was comedy. They thought it was disrespect. They thought it would end in humiliation. But what happened next shocked everyone and changed his life forever. Before this story takes a turn no one saw coming, hit subscribe, because stories like this prove that miracles don't announce themselves, they arrive disguised as jokes. The man standing backstage that night was not supposed to matter. He wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. He didn't even have a proper audition slot. His name was Ethan Cole, and at 28 years old, his life was hanging by threads thinner than the strings on his borrowed guitar. He had slept in his car for 3 months, rotating parking lots so security wouldn't recognize him. The only thing he owned that still felt like his was his voice, and even that felt like it was fading under years of rejection. Ethan grew up in a small Tennessee town where Elvis Presley wasn't just a singer, he was scripture. Every diner had his songs playing. Every old man swore they once saw Elvis drive past their house. Ethan's father worked construction during the day and sang Elvis covers at night in smoky bars for tips. As a child, Ethan would sit on a crate behind the stage, watching his father close his eyes and become someone bigger than his pain. Those nights were magic, but they ended early. When Ethan was 13, his father died suddenly from a heart attack, leaving behind debts, a broken family, and a boy who learned too young that dreams don't pay bills. By 17, Ethan quit school to work. By 21, he had tried every shortcut to escape poverty. Nothing worked. Music became something dangerous, something that reminded him of what he lost. But one night, alone in his car with the radio barely working, an old Elvis song came on. Ethan sang along without thinking. His voice cracked at first, then settled into something deep, warm, and haunting. For the first time in years, he felt alive. Still, the world didn't care. He auditioned everywhere. Bars, talent shows, festivals. Judges compared him to Elvis and then dismissed him for exactly that reason. You sound too much like him. People want originality. Tribute acts don't sell anymore. Each rejection chipped away at him. Eventually, he stopped introducing himself as a singer. He told people he was just passing through. The night everything changed, Ethan wasn't even meant to audition. He had gone to the venue to watch, maybe to remind himself why he once loved music. The show was massive, bright lights, celebrity judges, cameras everywhere. When someone backstage joked about Elvis being untouchable, Ethan laughed and said the words that would follow him forever. I could challenge Elvis, as a joke. Someone heard him. Someone dared him. And suddenly, a producer was pulling him toward the stage, intrigued by the audacity. Ethan tried to back out. He said it was just a joke. The producer smiled and said, so was Elvis, once. The crowd didn't know his story. They only saw a nervous man in worn clothes stepping into the spotlight. When the judge asked what he would sing, Ethan swallowed hard and said, Elvis. Laughter rippled through the audience. One judge raised an eyebrow, another smirked. Even the band looked unsure. Then Ethan added something unexpected. He said he wouldn't just sing Elvis. He would sing the song the way his father sang it, the way it sounded before fame polished the edges, before the world decided what Elvis was supposed to be. The music started. At first, Ethan's voice was quiet, almost fragile. The audience leaned in, confused. Then something shifted. His voice deepened, carrying a raw ache that felt too real to be rehearsed. It wasn't imitation. It wasn't parody. It was memory. It was grief. It was love poured into sound. The laughter stopped. Halfway through the song, a judge's smile faded. Another leaned forward, eyes wide. The crowd went silent in the way only truth can silence a room. Ethan wasn't challenging Elvis anymore. He was standing beside him, not as a rival, but as a reminder of why the music mattered in the first place. Then came the twist no one expected. Instead of finishing the song the way Elvis made it famous, Ethan changed the final verse. He sang it slower, stripped down, almost like a confession. The band hesitated but followed. The song became something new, something deeply personal. When the last note faded, Ethan didn't pose. He didn't smile. He just stood there, shaking. For a moment, no one clapped. Then one person stood up. Then another. Then the entire room exploded. The judges were stunned. One of them admitted they had expected a joke and instead witnessed one of the most honest performances of their career. Another confessed that they hated Elvis covers and now felt ashamed for judging before listening. The third judge said something that made Ethan's knees buckle. They said, "You didn't challenge Elvis. You reminded us why legends exist." Backstage, producers scrambled. Clips of the performance spread online within minutes. People argued. Some said no one should touch Elvis. Others said Ethan honored him more than any impersonator ever had. Overnight, Ethan became a symbol of something bigger than talent. He became proof that respect doesn't mean fear. But the story didn't end there. 2 days later, Ethan received a call he almost ignored, assuming it was another scam. The voice on the other end belonged to someone connected to Elvis's estate. Ethan panicked. He thought he was in trouble. He apologized before the person even finished speaking. Instead, they thanked him. They said Elvis's legacy wasn't meant to be frozen in time. It was meant to inspire. They invited Ethan to perform at a tribute event attended by people who once worked with Elvis himself. Ethan nearly collapsed. At that event, an elderly man approached Ethan backstage. He introduced himself quietly and said he had played guitar for Elvis in the early days. He told Ethan something that no camera captured. He said Elvis would have loved what Ethan did, because Elvis himself borrowed, blended, and broke rules. That night, Ethan sang again. Not as a joke, not as a challenge, but as a man who finally understood that honoring greatness doesn't mean staying small. Today, Ethan no longer sleeps in his car. He tours small theaters, telling stories between songs. He never pretends to be Elvis. He simply carries the spirit forward. And every time he sings, he remembers the moment the world stopped laughing and started listening. So here's the real question. How many miracles have we dismissed because they arrived wearing the clothes of a joke? If this story moved you, tell us in the comments which part of the country you're watching from. Your voice matters here.